But one of the things that you said that really struck me was this authenticity piece. And you hear so much in the last few years anyway, particularly for women, about being authentic, about bringing their whole person to what it is they're doing. But boy, that takes a lot of courage, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I truly believe that if you're called to bring your ideas to the world, to be a coach, be a thought leader in any way, that there are people waiting for you. There's people that are looking for you on a soul level, the message that you are here to bring, your specific soul signature that you are meant to bring out into the world and ripple into your industry. It is extremely unique. And it's something that we need to remember, especially as women, too. Bringing your light to the world is what you're made to do. Yeah. And AI cannot replicate that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Her Table, Her Rules. I am super excited today for a conversation, I think, about personal branding. I've got Natalie Hunter, who is the co-founder of a company called personalbrand.com. And then, as is the case with most women, Natalie has a whole other sort of approach that she's using in her day-to-day work. So welcome. Thank you, first of all, for being here.
Thank you.
So let's talk about personal branding, because I think that for a lot of people who are starting their entrepreneurial journey, it's different now than it was if you were starting a business even 20 years ago. This idea of really having to kind of be out there, right, in order to build your business, whatever your business is. So, kind of fill me in on how, when you work with clients, you kind of approach the idea of personal branding.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have our own personal brand. And as you said, there's a whole industry now of thought leaders and experts who are making a living with their personal brand. And it's very easy to do now. Everybody is out there, especially in the coaching industry, an unregulated industry. Everybody's out there sharing their knowledge, sharing their information. If you're an author, a speaker, a coach, an influencer in any way, then you have a personal brand. And at personalbrand.com, we support those thought leaders and authors, speakers, influencers, coaches to really have a strong business model behind their business and the branding. And we also work with the being. We work with the person. So we believe that in order to have success in a personal brand and with your business, those three aspects need to be very strong. And your success really hinges on that. And the thing a lot of people don't talk about is the being, is the person behind the personal brand.
Yeah, and I think that's something to explore a little, particularly for, I think, women. When I was growing up, I definitely had my light actively dimmed by the world, by other people within my own family, what your place was, how you should act, the things you should say, right, and not say.
Yes.
And so when we come to the era now in personal branding, and I think that for not everyone, but for a lot of us, we're a little bit like, yuck. That is to show you that's
be out there.
I'm not twirling on, with my camera. That's not me, right?
Yeah.
So, so how do you, and I think that at its core, women are absolutely not comfortable with that, necessarily all the time. So how do you kind of walk that so that your message, your important work that you're here to do in the world is out there, but you're doing it in a way that is true to who you are? I think that's the trick. How do you get there?
Yeah. Well, the thing is to really, I help our clients to look at the limiting patterns that may have kept you small, and they become part of our reality for so many different reasons, right. As children, like you said, and also, things that we're just wired in to believe as humans as well. And so in my work, I really do support the being to first look at the patterns that are sticking right now. They're showing up for you, that friction that's between where you want to go and who you are right now. It does show up in the form of feelings. It does show up in the form of thoughts, but those are not really the only thing. You have to look at the patterning that's happening, the behaviors that are happening because of those emotions and because of those thoughts in order to actually change them.
So we were talking a little bit about with the kind of the advent of AI, and it really is, even for somebody like me who has a media background, and am really kind of very interested in AI and learning a lot about it, using it. It's really hard to tell what's real and what's not, right? But one of the things that you said that really struck me was this authenticity piece. And you hear so much in the last few years anyway, particularly for women, about being authentic, about bringing their whole person to what it is they're doing. But boy, that takes a lot of courage, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I truly believe that if you're called to bring your ideas to the world, to be a coach, be a thought leader in any way, that there are people waiting for you. There's people that are looking for you on a soul level, the message that you are here to bring. And when we're dealing with AI and we're looking at, all the different aspects that AI can be involved in a business, it's missing one thing. It's missing the human soul component, So that's the biggest thing I do help my clients tap into is your soul, your own frequency, your specific soul signature that you are meant to bring out into the world and ripple into your industry. It is extremely unique. And it's something that we need to remember, especially as women, too. Bringing your light to the world is what you're made to do. Yeah. And AI cannot replicate that.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting right now. I say this a lot, that the more the use of AI rises, the more it is actually training your audience. Your audience is getting more sensitive, whether you're aware of it or not. Your audience is getting more sensitive to AI and to the inauthenticity. They're able to spot it now a little bit more than people think. I had a conversation this morning too with somebody. She said, I can tell now when a caption is written by AI, and I said, yes, that's definitely the rise of consciousness on the planet, and the more work that people are doing, as you know, the healing industry has taken off over the past 10 years. The more healing people do, the more attuned to authenticity they become.
Right.
And so, if you're going to lead in this next era, in this next decade, as a personal brand or as a thought leader, an author, a speaker, a coach, you're going to have to be fully embodied in your light in order to stand the test of time.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, I think, the core of it, right? I think that one of the things I love about talking to all kinds of different business owners, some who are in very traditional mainstream businesses and some who speak in the language you just spoke in, right? Which is, what a lot of people do on the side and underneath, right? They don't bring that part of themselves out. They may be using it, right? But they're not necessarily leading with it, right? So how did you get the courage, really, to kind of come out and mold? Because you are doing very concrete work in a branding business, right? How do you meld that concrete work with this idea of the energetics of a soul?
Yes. Great question. Well, it's been a journey for me. I've been in the industry for about 20 years as a motivational speaker and coach. I started by studying energy and persuasion in front of audiences. When I was just in my early 20s, I was actually being paid to go in and speak on stages and to audiences of teenagers and talk about a tough crowd. The audience of a teenage group. Yeah. But it really started to train me and teach me about authenticity and how to be myself and how that actually does move people. And I did do coaching outside of specifically the personal brand realm for many years as well. I was training coaches and I was working with thought leaders in a variety of different industries. And I was working with people in brick and mortar businesses too for a long time.
Yeah.
But I found myself continually being called to work with those that were sharing their knowledge, sharing their information, sharing their thoughts to the world. And I'm excited that the world is more open to talking about energetics now than ever before. Because when I was first starting to talk about this and first finding my spiritual teachers 15 years ago, no, it was much more dense on the planet. People were not necessarily talking about this. And as my gifts developed and my personal growth happened, I became more and more in touch with my own remembrance and what I really was here to do. And so we do find that our clients that come through personalbrand.com are very conscious. They're very aware of, what they need to do and who they need to become. They just need help getting to the next level.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about off camera, and I want to touch on here, is because I do think that right now it's a tough time, particularly for women who have always been hiding. And, we talk about people standing in the shadows and doing incredible work, but in the shadows, right? Or in the underground, or, moving a lot of stuff, but people not knowing about it, right? So it's kind of a weird time to come out, right? And be like, hello, we're here, right? But I do feel pretty strongly in my own self that there are discussions happening among women, and there is movement happening for women at a time where it hasn't been the most supportive. In my lifetime, it's definitely, this is not the era of support for women and or their initiatives and or their bodies. Right? So how do you break down some of those fear barriers that people, particularly women, have around sort of coming out of the shadows and sort of doing the work they're here to do?
Yeah. There's some patterns that I recognize in actually all humans, both women and men. They just show up in different ways. And it does have a lot to do with safety, feeling safe. It has a lot to do with feeling alone, feeling like you're not heard. There's patterning around there not being enough, scarcity. And then there's patterns around right and wrong. And so as long as those patternings are running in the field subconsciously and sometimes even consciously, they're going to ripple out and create a little bit of a distortion. And so it comes back to the inner work. And that's what I support our clients in doing is, the pattern identification, but actually the pattern shifting as well. Actually shifting the behavior, shifting the pattern through a series and a process that I take women and all of our clients through that actually helps you change your output in the ways that you desire. So it's individualized, but there are several patterns that all humans are running at this point. It really does have a lot to do with safety, like you said. And I think on the primal level as humans, we're all wired to feel, okay, wait, this is not safe. This is not okay. No matter where that shows up for you, what industry you're in, it doesn't actually matter. What you're talking about doesn't actually matter. It's just that subconscious belief that it's very, very, primal. I'm going to be hunted. I'm going to be killed. I'm going to be, killed for sharing my voice. And I see a lot of, work too from other lifetimes. You're not necessarily here for the first time, especially if you're leading in some way, shape, or form. So I support with that kind of healing as well, because there are very real things that have happened, and that's how I really start to help break it down. We got to go in through that heart space and help you acknowledge, hey, wait a second, there's a reason these patterns exist. And that's the first step, because if you go in and just try to correct the thoughts or correct the mind or just do affirmation work, it's not going to hold in the entire energy field. The mind is just one layer of the entire energy field. Just your thoughts are just one part of things. Your feelings are just one part of it, And so I have a comprehensive approach to help you shift those patterns all the way down to your core so that you can start to actually show up differently in the world, no matter what you're talking about, no matter what industry, whether you're male or female, or, whether you're here bringing that cutting edge, voice to the world that needs it the most right now.
Yeah, I think I read in one of your things is sort of that grounding in the body, right? That I myself, who am always here, shocker,
Yep.
right, always up here,
Yes.
and never really fully from here.
Yeah.
That was sort of and so learning that. And
big journey.
also being conscious and looking at having done just a tiny bit of somatic work.
Okay.
Really very interesting, right? So when you start to do it, when you can recognize, you literally can feel in your body where something is disconnected, not right. Sometimes I'll get a piece of news, I'll just use it that way, right? And I know where it totally hits me, right?
Yep.
And I've become a lot more conscious of that, over the last number of years. And I think we do live a lot disconnected from our bodies, up here,
Completely.
in our heads, disconnected from the rest.
Yeah. I love that we're even talking about this.
Yeah.
Because we weren't having these discussions
No.
5-6 years ago.
Absolutely.
Even, nobody was really talking about this the way they are now. And now you're going, wait a minute. Oh, I feel like I'm out of my body. Oh, wait. Oh, I felt that in my body. That's incredible. Right. And that's huge progress. And I think we're well on our way to a very powerful group of world changers, leaders, thought leaders, influencers, women, men who are here to lead change. And I truly believe that this is the only way that we're going to have real influence in the future is by being fully embodied and people being able to sense it, I always say, give your audience the benefit of the doubt. They can feel you, they know it or not.
Like just the fact that we're having this conversation, I mean, I'm very open and out about sort of the secret life that I've had for all these years of doing personal development and energy stuff. And I didn't always talk about it because it was definitely not something I talked about, especially as somebody who has a grounded business and is every day helping businesses with very practical
understand
stuff, right? But I think that there's so much learning in it. So I mean, just the idea of being grounded in your physical being and being in touch of where in your physical being things are not resonating, feel off, or I think people have always used that, but they've not had the words to verbalize it. And also there's been judgment around the words to verbalize it, right? And so we didn't really want to talk about that because it was too woo-woo, right? And it sat on a different playing field than the rest of life.
Yeah.
And I think that, but I do think people use it every day. Women definitely use their intuitive knowledge of people and situations. They may not have the words for it and be talking, but of course we do talk about it. Yep. Let's be honest. We absolutely
yes,
right? But quietly in the corner, right? But I think people use it. They just didn't have the language around it and weren't willing to accept that this was part of our world.
You're so right. You're so right. And I love that it's starting to become a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more knowledge around this is starting to circulate. And what's really happening too is people are really affirming it in each other.
Yes, right.
And they're giving each other that feedback in real time and going, no, you're not crazy. I could feel that. That vibe was off. That person was bad vibes, or, oh my gosh, she's amazing energy. Let's roll in that direction.
The vibe thing, vibes are off. I mean, really,
it's
when
so
you
true
think about it, right?
Yeah.
It seems like just Gen Z slang, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's something that underpins the slang, right?
And it's actual truth, And I always say, people say, oh, I don't have energy for something. But I say, it's not whether or not you have energy, it's you are energy. Yeah. You are energy here in motion in this human form. So it's just a matter of identifying where is energy going that you might not want it to go. Where you're
leaking it.
Yeah, where your energy is going, your efforts are going, where your energy leaks consciously, subconsciously that are creating a pattern that is creating a reality that you don't necessarily want to be living anymore.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think when people feel the need to change, right, and they feel that deeply from within themselves, right?
Yeah, the desire
They're
to
not
change.
happy with what they're doing, saying, being. That is kind of, the jumping off point to kind of the work to unpack that.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
It is actually, I have 6 stages of transformation that I take our clients through, and that is one stage.
Yeah.
You do have to have that desire to change, but it's only just one of the stages. There's several other stages that need to happen too for you to be able to identify, okay, what is it that actually needs to change? Because a lot of times clients come to me feeling uncomfortable, feeling a desire to change, but we need to really zoom in, narrow in, help them see what the pattern is, help them see what's happening, help them feel how it's being created in the field and what impact it's having on you, what impact it's having on your audience, the people around you, the ripple you're sending out, et cetera, in order to really tip you over into the willingness to change and make a new choice.
And we're running low on time. I wish we had more time for this conversation. It's fabulous. But I think that, kind of learning where your peeps are is really important. It's certainly important for women to build communities where you have that safety feeling. And you're not kind of standing out there by yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it speaks to a human wound in all of us and helps heal all of us too, together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for joining me today. I have one final question. So the show is about sort of building your own table, stop begging for a seat at somebody else's, right? So what is your rule for yourself that is really important for what you're doing, and maybe it will resonate with someone who's watching? So tell me what your rule at your table is.
My rule at my table is authenticity. I want to feel you. And I think if I can't feel you, I will tell you that I can't feel you, and I will invite you into a space where I know that you feel safe to be you too. And that's something that I create for my clients. That's something that I create in my personal relationships too. I always joke with friends, okay, do you need Coach Natalie or do you need friend Natalie?
Yeah.
But they're gonna feel that I have an invitation to you, your core. We can always, like you said, we're always honing those muscles, and we can always feel when something is off with somebody. So I want to, especially in my personal relationships, my professional relationships, I like to make a rule that this is an authentic space, and I want to feel you so that you can feel you and you can feel your power when you're done talking to me.
That is phenomenal. We're going to leave it at that because that's really fabulous advice. So thanks everyone for tuning in to Her Table of Her Rules, and we'll see you next time.